I don't know. I'm very worried. Not releasing it because of Nintendo licensing hell? What Nintendo licensing? They're worried that it's not going to show up on Switch? Just have it come out on Switch later. There's a theory that like the game is fully done. Like everything's done, guys. It's just Nintendo won't let us release it on the Switch. Which is like, yeah, Nintendo's fucking dumb and stupid and shit like that, but like, what? I'm just worried is all. I would be pleasantly surprised if my worries are founded on nothing and the game is going to be perfect on launch. Sure, that's great. Everybody wins. If I'm wrong, everybody wins, and that's great. How about those world premieres? I didn't watch any of it, really. I watched a little bit of Starfield, and Starfield kind of looks like the same shit we've been seeing from Bethesda for the last 10 years, if not more, actually. Probably like 15 years now. So I'm not that excited, to be honest. However, Silksong is still a game that exists, so that's cool. They didn't... all the developers didn't just like randomly die and stop working on it. So that's really fun. Diablo... Dude, that's the biggest cope I've ever heard in my life. Don't worry, guys. Diablo 4 will finally be good. Damn, that's crazy. Hey, you're allowed to. I think copium is perfectly normal and rational, especially when it comes to video games, but don't worry, guys. Blizzard will finally get it. I think it is in this weird spot where a lot of games exist now where your best hope for like a new game in your favorite franchise is hoping that some indie game comes around and basically just rips off the game with a different coat of paint because the developers of the IP are doing nothing with it. Bloodstained in Castlevania. So that copium is understandable. That's what I'm saying is like fan favorite games are probably not going to get the sequels that the fans want / should have. So it's up to indie game developers to basically just rip off game series that have lying dormant for a long period of time. That's basically the entirety of the Metroidvania genre, was the fact that Nintendo stopped making good Metroid games. Konami stopped making good Castlevania games. So like there was just a huge drought for Metroidvania. So it was just like, of course the indie scene is like, let's just go make Metroidvania since fucking Konami and Nintendo aren't making them. Me want Silksong. Don't worry, Silksong is coming to Xbox Game Pass day one. Whatever day one means, because there's still no release date. It's coming in the next 12 months. Says who? Says you? Where's your source? Trust me, bro. Xbox Twitter confirmed it. Can I post a link? I won't be able to see it. We'll look at it after the run. We can watch the trailer too, actually. I watched it earlier today, but I'm down to watch it again, so I can give my thoughts on Silksong. My thoughts on Silksong and Hollow Knight as a whole. Because I'm going to play it. No matter what, I'm playing Silksong when it comes out. Even if it's an absolute train wreck. Which it probably won't be. It'll probably be really good. But who knows. The tweet says 36 games for PC. 35 of them confirmed within the next 12 months. Bro! It's literally Silksong! You're coping so hard! Silksong's the one that's not coming out in 12 months. No! They left wiggle room. That's the thing about Silksong, man. If you give them an inch, they will never show up again. Why do you think they're not? They would have released a release date. If they wanted to confirm that it was going to come out in the next 12 months, they would have done it in the trailer. It's not like they forgot. Oops, we forgot we're coming out in 12 months. No! They didn't release a release date on purpose. They can't disappoint if they never release it. Exactly. It's probably one of the most anticipated indie games of all time right now. So they have a lot of weight on their shoulders, so I understand. Because Hollow Knight is literally a religion for a lot of people. Don't worry, guys. Silksong's coming out tomorrow, Copium. That's my second item drop, damn it. That's why they say it's available day one. Day one meaning tomorrow, because that's one day from today. That's day number 1. Guys, it's time to rip the Band-Aid off. The game's not even freaking rated yet. First of all, a couple things to say about Silksong. One, this trailer is in 1080p. So, I'm hoping that the game isn't locked to 1080p, right? 1080p was fine in 2016 when the original Hollow Knight came out. I'm pretty sure a game of this style at 1080p is going to look bad on a lot of people's monitors now. A lot of people have upgraded to higher quality monitors. So, hoping that at least, it doesn't have to be 4K, I don't think. Maybe, I think a lot of people will expect 4K, to be honest, but... But yeah, this art style will look bad at 1080p is all I'm going to say. Is because, especially with the amount of detail and stuff like this. Granted, it also looks worse because of the encoding on YouTube is going to make it look worse, but still. What are they waiting for, dude? Obviously, these are like release trailers or like they're trailers. They're not like, it doesn't mean that this is like what the gameplay is like final state is going to be like, but like the game looks so finished. Yeah, 1440p is probably going to be just the standard, but like the game looks so close to done from these trailers. Like there's not the base mechanics at the very least should have been done a long time ago for this fucking game, right? They had the original Hollow Knight, like, fine-tuned, and they could just use the same game engine and go from there. So they're not even starting from scratch. It's obvious that they're not starting from scratch. But, like, there's also not that much color. The only color that they're really emphasizing is the color red, which is weird to me. That everything is very muted except for the color red in this game. Like, it's literally just fire and lava and, like, this section, which has some red in it. A little bit of green, but everything else is incredibly muted, which is weird because Hollow Knight is very colorful. I don't know. I'm very worried. Not releasing it because of Nintendo licensing hell? What Nintendo licensing? They're worried that it's not going to show up on Switch? Just have it come out on Switch later. There's a theory that like the game is fully done. Like everything's done, guys. It's just Nintendo won't let us release it on the Switch. Which is like, yeah, Nintendo's fucking dumb and stupid and shit like that, but like what? That's fair. Like I'm not expecting that the game needs to be done like literally right now. But I'm also like, you have all this stuff to show what's going on. You've had 4 years of development, like, with, like, zero communication outside of the 2 trailers. Like, literally zero communication outside of, like, the 2 trailers. It's just weird. Especially because Silksong, by the way, was supposed to be DLC for the original Hollow Knight. And then they just turned it into their own game. It was originally DLC. They've been working on this shit, like, while Hollow Knight was still being worked on. So they probably had more than 4 years of development time, to be honest. It looks like a DLC expansion. Yes, because that's what the game originally was. It was originally just DLC. So now they have to justify it being its own game now, which I can understand why that's going to cause more issues. But like to still not have a release date is absolutely insane to me and makes me worried about the overall. Because again, if they're in licensing hell with Nintendo, like that makes me worried for the game progress as a whole. Like, how is that going to affect the overall, like, game quality? I don't know. I'm worried. The game looks fine. It looks like it's more Hollow Knight with new mechanics, but it's understandable that plans change. I'm still just worried. Like, I'm worried they're going way too in over their heads, when in reality, the game probably would have been fine as just DLC. That's my worry, is that they're pushing this game farther than it should. They're overextending on their creative and, like, technical abilities to create and justify a brand new game, when in reality it probably should have just been DLC from the beginning. That's my biggest fear right now. And the longer they work on it, the more people are going to expect, especially if they're not showing off what the game looks like. I mean, they just did show up what the game looks like, but still, the lack of communication is only going to build more confusion and hype in a weird way. Because it leaves people to their own imaginations to expect the game to be perfect or amazing or whatever, but I'm just worried is all. I would be pleasantly surprised if my worries are founded on nothing and the game is going to be perfect on launch. Sure, that's great. Everybody wins. If I'm wrong, everybody wins, and that's great. I'm just worried about the way that... Because we've seen this song and dance before. where like the sequel to the critically acclaimed indie darling video game is like, eh. It's like, did this really need to be a sequel? I guess it's fine, but whatever. I'm just worried that it's gonna fall into that, situation. There should at least be more trailers. I'm not saying that there needs to be more trailers or more specific stuff. There just needed to be more communication in general. And the fact that they still don't have a release date or a release window even makes me very worried. It makes me worried that like development is not going well. Because that's the thing is like, what if they only had enough ideas for like a DLC and then they're like, oh, but we can make it into its own game. Like I have all these other ideas. And then they finally like developed them, tested them, play tested them. And they're like, oh, these ideas aren't that good, so we shouldn't put them in the game. I feel like I'm worried that that's been the development cycle the last 4 years. Is like they had ideas, they tested them, they tried to put them in the game. Turns out they're not good ideas. They had to scrap it and then start from scratch. And they did that over and over and over again. Starting the hype too early is dangerous. I'm not saying that they need to hype up the game, but there just needs to be communication. Just something. Even just like the devs being on Twitter and being like, yo, still working hard. Here's some like artwork that we're using, Maybe that would hype people up too much, but like I don't think so. Maybe I'm just smoking crack cocaine. It's like, hey, the concept art for this thing, and make it really vague so they don't spoil parts of the game or give away too much info. Because the issue when you leave everybody in a dry spell is you leave them to their own imagination to hype up the game in their heads, instead of controlling, I guess, the type of hype that people will build, I guess. Communicating with a dedicated fan base is never a mistake. I guess is kind of what I'm getting at, yeah. Of course, people will complain either way. My issue is, like, if you have zero communication, you leave a bunch of, like, fanatics to their own imagination for what the game is going to be like, and you don't want that, because people with their rose-tinted glasses are going to expect literal perfection, because they're still high off of playing Hollow Knight the first time, right? Whereas if you give them more directed, just more direction as to where the game is going, it doesn't have to spoil anything, right? Like, even just as simple as, like, showing off some concept art or showing off some area backgrounds or something like that. Stuff that's just, like, not spoilery, but just showing, like, hey, we're still working on the game. Things are going great. Excited to show more later when we can. Stuff like, even just, one Twitter post like that every, 6 to 9 months is all you need, in my opinion. As opposed to 4 years of relative silence. Because now there's too much hype built up from basically 2 trailers. Whereas if you showed more, there'd be more for people to just, I guess, be realistic about with their expectations. I don't know. Again, I could just be wrong about this. This is just my initial feelings. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm 100% open to being wrong with my approach, and maybe keeping quiet to try and quell hype is better. But I just find it to be an issue because it just happens to be an indie darling video game that everybody says good things about. So it's just hard. Containing the hype is just going to be hard. So I feel like your best bet in that scenario is to just have open communication. What game are we talking about? We're talking about Hollow Knight Silksong because they just released a trailer today. Do you think it's a lose-lose situation? I guess so. Yeah, maybe it is just lose-lose, and they're just choosing to hold the L of, silence. Maybe that is a better decision overall. Because if the game comes out and it's just good, then I think most people won't talk about the silence that happened for 4 years, versus if they do show off stuff and it doesn't 100% relate to what they... I don't know. I feel like no matter what, there's going to be a subsection of people who are like, this game sucks, it's not Hollow Knight 1, so I hate it. No matter what, they're going to have to deal with people that just want it to be Hollow Knight again and not different at all, but maybe. So maybe you guys are right. Maybe it is lose-lose. I don't know. I guess I would have preferred to have just communication, I guess. Can't please everyone, yeah. So I want them to please me, specifically. Because I'm more important than everyone else. My experience with Silksong is important. Everybody else can suck it. This video game is made only for me. What the fuck am I doing? To finish the conversation on Hollow Knight Silksong, the only reason I say that I think communication would have been better than basic radio silence for the last 3 years is the fact that myself, as well as other people, thought the game just stopped development. Just something as simple as hey, we're still working on the game. Excited to show all the new stuff we're working on. Something as simple as that, as a tweet, goes a long way. Otherwise, you have people like myself who are yeah, the game's fucking dead. No way this game ever comes out, you know what I'm saying? And now that I'm I haven't heard anything about this game, and then all of a sudden there's just a trailer, Makes me wonder if the development's been bad. So I'm much more cautious about my experience with Silksong now. But whatever. Again, like we said, it's a lose-lose. There's not really like a right way to do it. Regardless, people are going to have the expectation now that they've been working on the game for 4 years. So if the game doesn't feel like it's been worked on for 4 years because they've had to scrap a bunch of stuff, that's going to suck. No matter what, expectations are fucked, like we said. But I'm personally just worried for the game to have had 4 years of development and like it just looks basically like Hollow Knight. It's like it looks like Hollow Knight. Cool. Like it's gonna, I don't know. It's gonna be hard to really justify how long the wait is and justify how much silence there was personally. But not everybody cares. A lot of people, I'm sure, just like waiting patiently, and not a crazy person like me.